Hey, welcome to Mooney Reads. My name is Beck, and welcome to another vlog. I have been vlogging my way through National Poetry Month, and I'm going to continue that. But this vlog is going to be a little bit different. I will be talking about poetry, but I'm also going to be talking about other books as well. It is actually Monday the 11th currently. I started this vlog a few days ago, but I'm doing a new intro because there is a readathon starting, and I'm going to be vlogging that as well. The specific readathon that I'm participating in is the 24/7, which is set up by Lesba Reader. It's ran mostly on Instagram. The original intent was to attempt to read for 24 hours total within a week-long period. It's really chill though. You can set your own goals. That was just what Will Marie had set to begin with. But you can use it however you want, basically. So I'm going to be participating in that and vlogging my way through it. I'm also going to continue writing, and if I write anything worth sharing, I'll let you know. So far, I've still been consistently writing at least something every day, which is good. So this vlog started Thursday, but is actually not going to end until next Sunday. So it's going to be a little longer than my others, but hopefully it won't be as long as the others. I haven't really vlogged a whole lot the past few days. So hopefully it should be fine. It is day 3. No, it's not. It is week 3 of poetry vlogging. I have not finished Burning Sugar since I last spoke. I'll probably finish tomorrow. But I do have a couple of things to share. I was kind of on a roll today, and I actually did small poems, which is not what I usually do. But I do want to talk about one poem that I actually wrote a couple days ago, and I think is really significant and really shows a shift in my thinking that I think is really important. And I thought about it a lot today while I was writing. A lot of my writing today centered around, if not winter, fragments of Sappho. And I was basically using some of these as like writing prompts and different things. I'll get into that in a minute. But the poem that I wanted to share first, I was thinking about a lot because pulling from like personal experience and emotion, I think is something that a lot of people do when they're writing poetry. And in this whole process of starting to write, I feel like I've regained agency in a lot of the ways in how I write. And I hinted towards it at kind of the first poem that I did in the first vlog. I don't want to over-explain this. I'll just read it. And if it's confusing, you can just ignore it, and that's fine. As I write with intention, I realize you don't have to be my muse. My words aren't shaped by your silhouette. You can have a cameo, but you're not the star of the show. I can't stop my love from flowing, but I know now that it's not the current pulling my pen. These words are mine. For me, maybe for the world too. But either way, they're not just for you. It's not even really particularly good, I don't think, but it was nice. Especially, going back, I took some vibes from Sappho, so naturally it was gonna get gay. That's the whole point, right? So some of what I did, I was originally going to kind of find a line and do what I did yesterday, which was using a line, using it as a title for a poem, writing the poem, and then changing the title. But as I was flipping through, one of the things about Sappho's poems is that they are incomplete. Not because she didn't finish them, but because the paper physically is damaged. And what I absolutely love about If Not Winter is that it shows you where those cracks are. So what I did is I found a poem that had some of those, and I filled in the blanks a little bit. There's what it looks like, but I'll also read it. Nor desire, but all at once, blossom, desire, took delight. So I turn that into this. My heart had seen you before, not in this city nor this lifetime. I would not call it desire then, but all at once that night I was able to acknowledge that blossom, caress the petals of desire that had silently grown in our garden, and I know we both took delight in the sweet nectar of recognition. So there's that. I used a couple other ones for other poems, and then I had some thoughts relating to Sappho and all that, and kind of took a line that I've had sitting in my notes app for a while and turned it into something. I don't know if I'll still tweak it more. I know I've been kind of just sharing one poem a day, but whatever, I write the rules. So here's that poem. I was a flower, growing in Sappho's garden, frosted over early in the season, but it's better to blossom late than stay a stunted shoot. I never quite found the dark purple pigment, more like a lavender or forget-me-not blue. Or maybe I'm a wildflower, daisy, bluebell, or marigold. I'm the flower she has yet to name. But if I'm lucky, I will still be plucked to be placed in the lap of a lover. So, yeah. I'm pretty happy with the sapphic theme going on this day. I may continue on that. I'm a little bit worried about staying on one thing too long just because I want to be able to do all of the things, but I never really know what I'm going to write from one day to the next. That's really the only exciting thing poetry adjacent today. So I suppose I'll check back in tomorrow. It is Friday. I did not check in yesterday, but I did write a little bit. I don't think I'm really going to share it. I actually posted on Twitter last night, like, do the songs that I sing to my cat when I feed them count as poems? And a couple of people were like, yes, and people liked it. And so I basically just did that. Like, I wrote down some of the little rhymes. So it's, like, silly and fun. And I need more poems like that. So it kind of feels like if there's not a huge emotion, or if the words aren't, like, stabbing me in the chest or making me, like, yearn to the largest degree, that it's not good enough or important enough to write down. So something like that was pretty good. I did this morning finish Burning Sugar, or this afternoon, I guess it's like 1. I really loved this. The way that this is set up, it's 3 parts. The first part, and I think the largest, is place. Then there's art and child. All of the poems in place are written about different places. The poems in art all have to do with art to some degree, like they talk about going to art displays, particularly seeing, you know, these very white spaces and people looking at black artists. And then child is like a lot of different memories or things relating to childhood. I absolutely loved how they had these 3 distinct sections with very distinct topics. I thought that all of the poems related to each other in a way that was cohesive and beautiful without being repetitive. Kind of similar to Black Movie, what I said about Black Movie by Denez Smith. There were still kind of similar themes relating all of these together, though, so even though they're 3 distinct sections, I think they did make sense in different ways with this. I also really like, I'm pretty sure in each section they have a couple of letters that are partly poetry, but some of it is just written text, letters to different people. And I thought that that was neat. And it definitely gave like variety. They weren't all written in the same way. There were some that were shorter, some that were longer. So I really liked that because it felt like it kept moving. It had momentum because it wasn't just reading the same thing over and over again. Like I said, they hit on a lot of different topics. They talk about gender, sexuality. They talk a lot about race and a lot about diaspora. Overall, this was a really beautiful collection. It's definitely one that I would encourage everyone to pick up. This was a 5-star read for sure. I'm definitely going to be looking for any other collections that they have. I'm not sure if this is their first or not, although I guess Google exists, huh? It looks like this is their only poetry collection. At least it's the only one on Arsenal Pulp's website. So, no other poetry collections, but I will be looking forward to other poetry collections that they put out because this was incredible. Next, I think I want to get started on Even This Page is White by Vivek Shraya. This is a collection that I've heard about here and there from a couple of different people. I've seen some of Vivek Shraya's stuff online. I feel like I heard about her through Alok Fadmenon, probably. I'm going to get started on this at some point. I also need to write at some point today and work on some other reading. So we'll see what happens, but I'll check back in eventually. It is April 11th. It is Sunday. Nothing really exciting has happened. I thought that I lost my poetry notebook. Maybe it fell behind a bookshelf or something. So I wrote a poem about losing it and everything else that I own. And then tweeted about it. And then promptly remembered that I decided to bring it to work. Even though I didn't have a 30-minute break, only a 15. But I thought I might want to write. So I brought it in my bag. So I have transposed the poem from my notes app into the notebook. It's super small and silly, but I haven't shared a whole lot recently, so I have a poem about losing shit. It's titled, Transposed from My Notes app. Pick up, look up, hands move, brain lose. Nothing ever, where it goes, except when I don't, look for the home. On a shelf, in my bed, left at work, in my hand, always in the last place I look, except when it's not. So, there's that. It is Monday, so the 24/7 has started. I've spent my morning teaching and then picked up some groceries. Also reading a lot about what's been happening in Minnesota. I'm definitely going to put links so that you can find out more. I won't get too much into it just because a lot of people who know better than I do are talking about it in better ways than I could. It's more of the same. But I would like to start to get some reading done. Originally, I was thinking that I would finish Drag King Dreams first because I've been in the middle of this. I think I might wait a little bit though because the Not a Novel Readathon goes on until the 14th. So I'd like to get some not novels in for that. So I'm considering Bloom, which is super cute, or I could do the poetry collection that I talked about reading. I have several other things on my TBR that are like anthologies and what have you, but probably gonna start one of these. When I decide on which one and read it, I will check back in. I think both of these I could probably get done today with time to read something else afterwards. I finished Bloom, and it was super cute. It was definitely a love story, but there is also a good bit in here about friendships, and kind of having to tackle, especially like problematic friendships. I think I would have enjoyed this more if it had been more drawn out. Like, for instance, elements of the relationship. Like, I saw them, and I think that I was more ready to see them because I was ready for it to be, like, cute and heartwarming and whatever. So, since I was anticipating the relationship, I, like, saw it, and they did have, like, little details in the art, like small touches and, like, nervousness. But I do think that it was maybe, like, they could have put, like, a little bit more of a build onto some of that. And I also wish that certain parts of problematic friendships would have been a little bit more directly addressed, but I do understand that as a standalone, there's only so much that you can put in, and it's already pretty thick. But I really love this. I like the art style. I think I really like the graphic novels that do, like, the 1 or 2 tone thing to it. I prefer it when, like, the color has some sort of, like, symbol or something like that, or is, like, related to something, and for this it was just blue to be blue, which is fine. But I think my favorite thing about the art was when they did the full page, like, kind of, like, collages or montages. That. Isn't that so cute? So yeah, it was a really good time. I think I'm going to give it like 4 stars. And I think the next thing that I'm going to read is Even This Page is White. So I got finished with Even This Page is White, and it was an excellent poetry collection. The whole thing discusses race in a lot of different nuanced ways. It talks about the culture of white supremacy, her individual experiences with people being racist towards her, but also her own internalized racism and how that has, how it impacted her view of other people and her views of herself. There's also a lot of discussion about what whiteness is and the importance of naming and pointing out whiteness. I think one really big point that she was making about whiteness comes across in this one particular line that I think sums it up, as well as a quote from the front, so I'll read both of those. The quote comes from page 54. "And when you say, 'Don't play the race card,' you mean, 'Don't call me white.'" And that ties in with the Sarah Ahmed quote at the beginning. "If whiteness gains currency by being unnoticed, then what does it mean to notice whiteness?" There's so much great stuff in here. I really enjoyed what she did with some of the formatting. For instance, especially in the beginning, but really in most of the book, most of the poems are written on the page like this, where the poem is in the corner and then the rest of the page is blank, which I think draws attention to some of the points, just especially considering the title, like Even This Page is White. And then you have the majority of the page, which is white for the majority of the book. I also like that some of these follow different formats. There are some where she plays with space in different ways. There were a couple that were kind of in like a list format. I just really liked that there was a bit of variety, and in general, the way that she uses the page is really effective. So this was an incredible collection, and I'm definitely looking forward to reading her other stuff. Not really sure what I'll work on next, but I'll check back in when I do figure it out. The crinkle, the cold, the smooth, the new. I could not count the infinite ways to love my throne. I could not list the boundless feelings of bliss from its caress, because I am a cat. Okay, it is still the same night. It's like 1:30, but that's fine. My sleep schedule is awful. I finished reading Drag King Dreams, and it was so excellent. I'm already reading this for another vlog, so I won't like go into it because that'll be up later. But you should read this. Take care of the trigger warnings. There is major character death, discussion of HIV, and racism, xenophobia, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, transphobia, homophobia, just every bigoted stance that you can think of is encountered in this or discussed in this in some way. So it is a heavy book. It is not as heavy as Stone Butch Blues, because Stone Butch Blues has like descriptions of violent assault on the page. This isn't quite to that level, but it is fucking incredible. And if you are in any sort of activist circle, if you're interested in the idea of solidarity, which you should be, read this book and read everything else that Leslie Feinberg is written. That's all that I'll say on that. I'm not really sure what I'm going to read next. I'm probably going to read whatever it is tomorrow. Actually, I do know what I'm going to read tomorrow. During the reading hour that Audre and Xander do, I'm going to be working on Captive Genders because I've got a chapter that I need to get through with this. I'm probably going to work on other stuff too, though, because that chapter is fairly short. And I'll talk about whatever I pick. I'll probably just go with whatever I'm feeling tomorrow. So I have read for about an hour. I got through 3 of the readings in the chapter of Captive Genders that I'm on. And I have 5 more to go, but a couple of the readings are only like a page or 2 long. So I should be able to get through the rest soon. And I'll talk about that when I finish it. But I also have book mail, which is super exciting. I did open one package already. It came through, I guess, UPS because they knocked on my door. I opened that on Instagram. But I got an arc of The Passing Playbook from Penguin Teen. This is a story about a boy who was stealth, but then they start to put together rules saying, you know, trans kids can't play on sports teams, basically, or they have to play based off of their birth certificate, which that's very timely since so many states have those laws that have been suggested recently. But it's kind of his story. It's also like a romance. This is, at least from my understanding, a YA romance. It seems like it's going to be pretty cute, but also very, very timely. So I'm probably going to read this maybe next month. But I have 2 more packages of stuff that I bought. I have guesses as to what they are because I bought them, but I've been having problems with book buying because I've been buying too much. Oh, what else is new? That's an ongoing issue. But at least these are used. I got a sticker. That's new. I have been buying books from them for years and I've never gotten a sticker before. That's so nice. It's simple and I probably won't put it on anything because I always get scared. The only stickers that I've actually really put anywhere other than bumper stickers on my old car is my water bottle, and that's because I bought them for a water bottle so that I could trick myself into being hydrated. So I don't know what I'll do with it, but I'm excited about it. We've got Send My Roots Rain by Ibis Gomez Vega. And then I have Under the Undala Trees by Chinelo Okparanta. I got these because I was looking at lists of, like, lesbian literature and stuff like that. This one is from the 1990s, I think. And I was wanting to put together a list of, like, backlist LGBT books, particularly, like, lesbian or lesbian-adjacent books. So, and then this is one that I've heard a lot about in general, and I saw on a couple of those lists. I was able to get them both used, and it's a good time. Now this other one, I think I know what it is, because I only think I made one order that was out of the country. And this says that it has République Française, La Poste. I think the E is silent. I've never taken a French class. So I'm pretty sure I know what this is. All right. These are all from Foreign Language Press, which has a lot of books that are adjacent to like politics, socialism, Marxism, communism. I blame this book haul on Brianna from Rad Reads. They've posted a haul from FLP before, I think, that I saw forever ago, and I was like, oh, that's so cool, I should order that sometime. And then we met over Zoom for the second chapter of Captive Genders and went off on several different, rabbit holes just talking about whatever. And they made some book suggestions and talked about FLP. And now I have several things. Some of them was their recommendation, and some of them was other stuff that I just picked up. So the first thing that I got was The Philosophical Trends in the Feminist Movement by Anuradha Gandhi. And in this, she outlines several different types of feminism and kind of like the history behind them, and kind of critiques these and starts talking about the idea of a proletarian feminism. So this sounds neat. This is one that I have definitely heard Brianna talk about before. We've got kind of two basic like primers for Marxist-Leninism and Marxism-Leninism Maoism. We've also got the activist study, which I cannot succinctly talk about. I've heard Brianna say a lot of really cool stuff about it. Like, there's a reason that I bought it, obviously. But I cannot summarize it, given that I haven't read it and am not as familiar with like the history around all of it to actually give you anything that makes sense. Then I've got a couple of kind of classic texts. I've got The Origin of Family, Private Property and the State by Frederick Engels. I am really interested to read more Engels. I've read pieces of the Communist Manifesto. I'm going to read the whole thing very soon, actually. But I've also read some pieces that Engels has done by himself. And an excerpt of this is what I read in one of the first graduate level feminist classes that I took. And it was really awesome. Like, the fact that I remember it out of all of the things that I read. So I'm really interested to see the whole piece in context. And then we've also got some Rosa Luxemburg, Reform or Revolution. So I've got quite the range in this book haul, from fluffy YA to Marxist theory. Gonna have a good time, lots to read. And that's basically all that I have for this check-in. I'm probably gonna read a little bit more. I don't know if I'm gonna do Captive Genders because I do go to work soon, so I may start Komi Can't Communicate, Volume 1. And then I'll check back in when I finish this, probably. Alright, I am back. It's much later. I shaved part of my hair. Kind of want to do something else too. I'm tired of it. But I like it kind of longer, so it's hard to know what to do. If my job had different rules, I would dye it blue, because that's my go-to color. But I can't do that. That has nothing to do with anything. But so far as reading goes, I really hope this lighting is okay. It's hard to know. Especially because, like, if it's so bright, I, like, can't really tell what it looks like on my phone. Maybe I just can't see in general. Nobody expects me to know how to use lighting anyways. I'm not a professional. So, I have not read any more yet. I went to work. I'm gonna read some before bed. It's pretty late. I did write, though, so I thought I might share. This poem is about gender dysphoria and dissociation. So, if you need to skip on that, there will be a timestamp in the description, probably. My home is covered in fog. I phase through walls most days. At times I can lay in bed, but later I phase through the hallway floorboards. Some days I watch TV hovering above the ceiling fan. On others, I can only lay on the floor, the linoleum pressing against each vertebrae. I might paint the outside, comply with the neighborhood guides, but I forget which house is mine, until I find myself phasing through the walls again. What is it like to exist in your body all at once? So, that's the poem. I will check back in at some point. It is Wednesday, and I finished the first volume of Komi Can't Communicate. It was pretty cute. Going in, I knew that it was going to be a book like about friends. I knew that there would be maybe some side queer characters. It was interesting because I sort of assumed that it was going to be somebody with like social anxiety. And there are characters that seem to have social anxiety to some degree. The main character seems autistic. I wasn't necessarily expecting that, even though it, like, I don't know. She's definitely nonverbal, which is kind of what they're saying when they say she can't communicate. She can communicate. She can just mostly communicate by writing. She also doesn't process a lot of the social cues and things like that. The whole premise is that she meets this new kid at school, and the new kid was trying to make friends and then talks to Komi and decides to help her make friends because she wants to make 100 friends. A lot of people like her, but they put her on this really high pedestal, so she doesn't really have friends. I don't think that the way that some of the characters go about trying to make her friends or really make a whole lot of sense, but they're all like teenagers in school, so it kind of does make sense because they're not professionals. They're not going to be like, oh, well, let's find a different way for you to communicate, for instance, which technically the main guy actually did because he like wrote to her. But of course they aren't going to sit down and figure out something good because they're teenagers just trying to solve this however they know how, and so it does make sense, and I'm interested to see kind of what direction they goes in. So that was the first volume of Komi Can't Communicate. All right, it is Wednesday night. I have read a little bit more today. I read the first reading in Sister Outsider, and I really feel like I've read this, which I've read some of Sister Outsider. Like I know for sure I've read Poetry is Not a Luxury, which is up next because I read it for classes. Is this cloudy or can I just not see? Whatever. So I know that I read several in this collection, but I didn't think that I'd read the first one. But the way that I remember it is via audiobook. So I don't know if there was a book that I read in the past couple of years that is just similar to somebody going to Russia who's American. A lot of it was strangely familiar, even though I didn't remember exactly everything. But anyways, I don't really have much to say because it's just one reading. I also finished volume 2 of Komi Can't Communicate, which is pretty cute. I think I liked this a little bit better. The first one was cute too, but like this had kind of more like a friend interaction, like that was pretty cute, and it's also like funny. A lot of the stuff isn't believable, but it's not really supposed to be in some ways. It's just like part of the humor, I guess. I still don't like the angle that some of the friends are coming at it with, like, oh, we're gonna fix her because that's but again, they're teenagers, so I think it's realistic. And also, she is making friends, even if some of it's a little bit weird, but she's also communicating more. In this book, in the last book, she only really wrote to one person, like, once on the blackboard, and with this, she talks to multiple people writing on paper. So I think that's important improvement. I may read some more tonight, just depending. I did write some poetry that I'm a little on the fence about sharing. I may read a little bit or just watch BookTube. It is Thursday, and I've been reading. I finished Disintegrate, Dissociate by Ariel Twist. This was such an intense collection. It's pretty small. It's about 80 pages, but like I knew that it was going to be like about trauma. And a lot of the poetry that I read typically is like sad and like about various traumatic things, but this just felt really intense. It definitely made me think of a lot of things, especially like regarding just violence against women, specifically trans women. It made me think a little bit about Detransition Baby. And if you've read it, one of the things that Reese deals with, or kind of talks about in regards to her relationship with men, surrounds sexual violence a lot. So between that and then Ames is very clear, like dissociation and detachment. I was thinking about that kind of as I was reading this, but there's a whole other layer to it with colonization. There were also some really good pieces, though, about womanhood and the connection to the woman and her family, as well as this recurring discussion of like creating and recreating yourself that was really cool. There's a lot of, so there was a lot in here. Definitely recommend it, so long as you're aware of like the trigger warnings and stuff. Definitely a 5-star collection. Something else that I did, I was in my notes app, so that I could post sections of poetry that I'd written. I typed them in my notes app because if you tried to read my handwriting, it would not go very well. Like just little snippets of it for Instagram. And I found a poem that I forgot that I wrote. I must have written it when I was in bed on the 10th. It's the 15th right now, so 5 days ago. A poem about poetry. So I thought that I would share the poem that I found in my phone. Poetry is the way words ricochet off my bones, shake my heart to its core, and make bees in my skin that share migration patterns with the butterflies in my stomach. Poetry is thunder, moments delayed from the lightning, and the jolt when the flash hits my eyes. But it's also the warm rain on a summer sidewalk, and the shimmy of leaves through a chattering breeze. Poetry is sharp, warm, a chill, a teardrop, the upswing when your stomach flips. Poetry is everything I didn't know I could say, and so many things that have yet to be spoken. So, those were some thoughts before I went to bed a few days ago. So far as my plans for the rest of the day, reading-wise, I'm not totally sure. I've got a couple of ideas. I say a couple of ideas, and then I look at my stack of books, and a couple becomes like 5. The first idea, Moon of the Crusted Snow. It's the Climate Fiction Book Club pick, and I want to read it before the live show. And the live show's not till like the 20 something, I don't know, near the end of the month. But I figure I could go ahead and read it. It doesn't seem that long, so I could probably, if my reading pace keeps up, which is not a guarantee, I could probably finish it in maybe like 3 days or so, depending on how quick I get through it. Sometimes I get in the groove of reading better than other times. The other thing that I'm thinking is The Magic Fish, which I picked up recently. It's funny because I've actually been thinking about this book for a long time. It was like I'd seen it here and there, and then it was the pick 1 month for the Queer Picture Book Club. I think that's the name of that book club. I'll put it in the description. I might be getting it totally wrong. But I know that they read it for one of the months, and I really considered getting it, but like I hadn't seen it at the bookstore, and I have like 100 million things that I want to read. But recently, one of the people at my work, I think I was on like a 15 or something, and she was like, when you get off your 15, I have a book to show you because this looks like a book that you'd really like. And she brought me this, and I was like, I've been thinking about this book and pining after it when I see it in posts. I'm just gonna get it. And So my coworker showing it to me and saying, "This looks like a book you would like," was kind of the sign that I needed to get it because I'd been thinking about getting it for so long. So, I'm considering reading it soon, especially since we got more copies in, so it needs a little employee stamp of approval or review by it if I end up liking it, which I think I will. So, these, can I hold this with one hand? I got too lazy to put my phone on the tripod thing. These two books are what I'm considering working on for part of the day. I have other things to do too, like emails and grading and all that. That's what's going on now. I'll check back in if I finish something or write something or what have you. Alright, it's still Thursday, even though I'm wearing a different shirt. I had to change to go to work. I have not read anything else. So there's nothing to talk about. However, I did get some things at work. I got in a couple of things that I ordered. So I thought I would share. One of them is relevant to poetry, at least. So I've been waiting since I read volume 4 of this. So it feels like it's been almost a month that I've been waiting for this volume to come in. I got volumes 5 and 6 of The Girl from the Other Side, which I've been reading and really loving. Volume 5 took so long to come in, and I was concerned because there's a lot of manga that, or I say a lot, there is some manga that our distributors have been running out of, and some of them have been popular, so I was like a little concerned, even though it said that they had them. But I got the next 2 in this, and I'm excited, but a little bit afraid because I hear that volume 6 gets really sad, and I might cry if I have to wait another month afterwards, if we're out of it. But I told myself only 2 at a time, because otherwise I'll just buy the whole series, and that's probably not a smart financial decision. But the book that I've really been waiting on, that I mentioned previously, I don't remember which video, but I've mentioned it somewhere, probably my TBR. That is We Want It All, an anthology of radical trans poetics. This is such an interesting cover. I found this when I was doing a little bit of research for work. I was looking up poetry collections that people were excited for. I saw this, and I immediately thought that I should have it and ordered it. And now I have it. They've got stuff from so many different people, most of whom aren't familiar to me. Ooh, there's an excerpt from Stone Butch Blues in here. Excellent. There's some from Lou Sullivan, which I have We Both Laughed in Pleasure on my TBR for this month. So I need to read that. There's also something from Sylvia Rivera. Bitch on Wheels. A speech from June 2001. So I'm super excited about this. I feel like I just want to start reading it, but I have one other poetry collection from my TBR that I should get to first. But this is so good. Well, I'm not reading anything right now because it's almost 1 a.m. So I should sleep. I teach tomorrow and go to the bookstore tomorrow. Work at the bookstore. Why can't I just read instead of sleep, kitty? You know why? Kitty. She's so good. It is Friday. Between yesterday and today, I did not read all that much. I've read combined a little over an hour. But that's fine. That happens sometimes. I've also been kind of not really focused on one thing. I read Somo Sister Outsider. I got through the first few. And these were, it's all been really excellent so far. I also read the first chapter of Moon of the Crested Snow. Can't really say too much about it because it's just one chapter. This is kind of, I think, the setup. It shows the main character hunting and, like, saving up meat because there's supposed to be this, like, really horrible winter, which is where the bulk of the story takes place, from my understanding. Then I started on We Want It All, an anthology of radical trans poetics, and I read the introduction. I'm really excited for this. Of course, with this month being National Poetry Month, two of these things actually did talk about poetry. Audre Lorde is a poet, and that's, like, apparent in a ton of her stuff. So I thought that I would share, like, a small quote from each of these because I thought they were cool. This first one is from Poetry is Not a Luxury. The quality of light by which we scrutinize our lives has direct bearing upon the product which we live, and upon the changes which we hope to bring about through those lives. It is within this light that we form those ideas by which we pursue our magic and make it realized. This is poetry as illumination, for it is through poetry that we give name to those ideas which are, until the poem, nameless and formless, about to be birthed, but already felt. So, I thought that was really neat. She iterates this a little while later by saying, poetry is the way we help give name to the nameless so it can be thought. So I thought that was profound. I've read Poetry is Not a Luxury before. It's one that we read most semesters in my class. But it's a good one. The next quote that I wanted to share was from We Want It All. And they were basically talking about why they put it together, why poetry is relevant for politics, and just some of the things that will be focused on throughout the book. We don't hold that poetry is a form of or replaces political action. Poetry isn't revolutionary practice. Poetry provides a way to inhabit revolutionary practice, to ground ourselves in our relations to ourselves and each other, to think about an unevenly miserable world and to spit in its face. We believe that poetry can do things that theory can't, that poetry leaps into what theory tends towards. That's just fucking awesome. The potential that this medium has is just incredible. So, that's what I've been reading. Hopefully I'll do more reading tomorrow. I obviously can't guarantee anything because if the brain decides to only focus for 10 minutes at a time, that's just what's going to happen. I did write as well. I kind of forgot to write yesterday, but I did, like, compile quotes for Instagram yesterday and transcribed a poem from my phone to my notebook. So I did something with poetry yesterday. But I wrote today. I don't think I'm going to share it. It's, like, political, and I was kind of upset. But it doesn't seem that good, and I don't think that I'm saying anything that other people haven't said better. But I did write, so that's good. So, that is all for today. I probably won't be doing much reading or writing because it's almost 2 in the morning. Okay, it is Sunday night. I didn't check in yesterday. I was working and then doing other stuff. I didn't write yesterday, but I did read. More of the same, though. More Audre Lorde, more We Want It All, and more Moon of the Crested Snow. And I don't really have very much to add because I haven't finished any of those. I did start something else today, though, because that's just how it is. Started the Communist Manifesto. I got through the intro that they have that kind of contextualizes the Communist Manifesto and the other big piece that's in here, the 18th Brumaire. I don't know how to pronounce things. And it's really interesting so far. I'm really interested to read the second reading, actually. I know that a lot of people talk about the Communist Manifesto, but seeing that the second piece is kind of like his analysis after revolution failed. Seems like it'll be interesting. And I've read pieces of Marx before. Marx is the foundation for conflict theory in sociology. Like, I know Marx, but there's a lot just in, like, the beginning part of the manifesto that just, like, I don't know. I didn't expect going into this to, like, see quotes that were like, damn, like, that shit still hits. It's still relevant. Like, all the highlighting. The need of a constantly expanding market for its products chases the bourgeoisie over the whole surface of the globe. It must nestle everywhere, settle everywhere, establish connections everywhere. And, like, this was written in the 1800s. So, just the way that production has shifted even more since then to be so much more global. I was surprised at that. It compels all nations, on pain of extinction, to adopt the bourgeoisie model of production. It compels them to introduce what it calls civilization into their midst, to become bourgeoisie themselves. In a word, it creates the world after its own image. Damn. A lot of the slaps. Like it's truth. So I'm excited for the rest of that. I'll probably finish it soon. Knock on wood. And I also think that it's good to have this as the extra context for most of the other stuff I'm reading anyways. The Audre, Lorde, and We Want It All. So it'll be nice to have that. Obviously, I know Marx, and I know a lot of the talk. It's not like I don't know what communism is. But there's a lot that I don't know about it, so it'll be good to read that. I did write a little bit today. It's like a really small poem. I'll share it. I don't think it's particularly good. It's small. It's whatever. And it's kind of, I think, the stuff that I shared from Communist Manifesto you could probably see where this came from in my brain. Time is said to have passed, but how are we to know when the cosmos has stayed on repeat, on repeat, on repeat, on repeat? So, that's that. So this is the end of the week. This is the end of the vlog. I've already edited most of it, and it's gonna be way too long, so I guess I'm sorry. Not really. This is a lot of fun. I like putting this together. To wrap up the 24 and 7, I didn't really have a specific time goal, but it's neat to, like, actually time myself and see how much I can do. I had a couple of slumpy days, so it's not the best, but it's not the worst either. I got 10 hours and 31 minutes. It's formidable, I guess. I don't typically time myself most of the time, so I don't really know what to compare it to, but there's my time. Next week, I'll continue the poetry vlog, so you'll really only get more updates about We Want It All, and whatever other poetry I end up reading or writing. So, thank you all so much for watching. Bye.